welcome to my channel, your go-to destination for all things educational. Thank you for tuning in. I am Lana, the educator. If you're a first-time listener on this channel, welcome, and join me as I explore the latest educational trends, tackle pressing issues facing the education sector, and share stories of triumph and innovation from classrooms across the globe. If you're interested in all things educational, then like and subscribe. If you're a student striving for success, a dedicated teacher shaping young minds, a paraprofessional making a difference, or an administrator leading the way, this channel is your place for inspiration, insights, and invaluable resources. Today on Teachers Have Issues, yes, I welcome my guest, Kenwyn James, Managing Director at Pan American Life Insurance Group. Welcome, Kenwyn.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
So let me tell you a bit about Kenwyn. He, as I said, is the Managing Director of KCJ Financial Services Limited. And this is an organization dedicated to serving its clients in the best way possible. They believe that the key to financial security is in having a balanced financial plan. He has over 30 years as a specialist in life, disability, and retirement insurance planning, and he has a keen desire to help persons to get what they want with integrity. He has license in certification from the American College of Financial Services. And KCJ Financial Services is a place where you can get free consultation and review of your finances to ensure that you are prepared for whatever life can throw at you. So a lot of good things you can get here at KCJ Financial Services. So, Kenwyn, to start off, can you tell us a bit about your role as the Managing Director here at Pan American?
Well, the role has several aspects to it, but mainly it's insurance, sales, and service. But having been in the industry for 32 years, early on, it was more focused on the actual sales and service, but now I'm more into recruiting, training, and managing the office. So I currently have 42 agents under my fold, with 2 unit managers. So they have a couple of the agents under them. So the main focus is recruiting, training, and production. I still do a little bit of selling, but I'm more focused on my clientele. Because it's quite huge, so it makes no sense going out to look for new people. It's more or less servicing your clientele, making sure everybody is up to date and happy.
And the brand sells itself after a while, the reputation.
Correct.
So how do you recruit? I heard you say you recruit.
Well, the best recruits come from agents, which is personal observation, because we have an eye for the person who will do well. The personality, you might go somewhere and you get good service, or in your interactions with a prospect, you might realize that somebody is disturbed because they might tell you, well, they're not happy with the job, it's not enough money, no room for improvement, no promotions, So when we meet someone who's disturbed, we normally show them that, there's a better way by having or starting a career in financial services. But we do letters. I do a call on Zoom and Facebook once a week on a Friday at 2 p.m., to expose persons to the career. But the best option is through agents.
Is this on your personal page or on a professional page on Facebook?
My professional page, business page on Facebook, which is actually Kenwyn James Agency on Facebook.
So how did you end up specializing in insurance sales? Was that your goal?
You might laugh. Only this morning, I saw a video on TikTok with G.R. Ewing, a little snippet. Before coming into the industry, I worked at a supermarket, then I worked at a shoe store, and I worked at a factory. But I always wanted to be in business. And as a young man, I used to watch Dallas and Dynasty, and I always admired these men in these suits.
Yeah.
I had my first son in 1992. I have 4 children. So the first one was 1992. And working at the factory, I realized that the income couldn't cut it with milk and Pampers. So I started sending out applications. And my mom happened to know someone who knew Ken Valley. So she hooked me up with a meeting with him. I went down to Digger Martin around July in 1992. for an interview, thinking, well, I will get a government job. And based on my personality, he said, I know where you will do well. So he sent me to EF Telepol at American Life at the time, Algico. And he gave me an appointment. I went to see him and we had a nice meeting. And based on what I was hearing, it seemed interesting. And I asked him at the end of the interview, he said to me, do you have any questions? I said, when I start this career, would I be able to wear a suit? And he says, yes. And that was my epiphany. I was like, that's it.
Yeah.
And I was sold from day one. That this is what I wanted to do. And I just made up I'm gonna do it for the rest of my life.
Good, and look at where you are.
Today,
I love that story.
Real transformation.
Goal setting, manifesting, success story.
You call it. See, because I believe that everything starts with a thought. Everything starts with a vision. And even during school, that's how I saw myself. I can even give you a quick example of manifestation. I used to draw a particular hill when I was young. And when I bought my first home, it was actually my boss at the time. He took me to see it. I didn't go in, but I looked through the windows and I decided I'm going to buy it. And when I got the key for the first time, I went through the back door. And when I opened the front door and I looked up, tears came to my eyes. Because the exact hill that I was drawing over the years is the exact hill. I was like, but this is where this, because I don't know why I would always just joy.
Wow.
Yeah, and as I opened the door, I said, well, then I realized I did the right thing because the hill was there, so that's how I feel. Things really starts in the mind.
Bravo. So we're here a bit. I want to kind of turn us around to how we can link this financial aspect to teachers and what might be relevant to teachers. So what do you think are some fundamental concepts that you believe every teacher should understand about finance?
Well, you mentioned having a balanced financial plan, and it's a concept that I've used for several years, and it has worked for my clients. To be successful financially, you just can't have financial plans. They have to be balanced. So I usually advise that you start off with your foundation savings, right? It's common, it's natural. From the time you get paid, the first thing you do, you're supposed to save, right? So you put some money aside. Then secondly, you need protection dollars or risk management because you don't know how much time you have. Now, most people consider their greatest asset to be their home or their car, but that's not true. The greatest asset is your health. So you have to protect it because your health allows you to go to work based on your education and training and experience to exchange time for money. So if you don't have the time, it affects your income. So you must consider at least two types of insurance: life insurance, disability insurance, by extension, medical insurance. And of course, you do your reviews ever so often. After that, you need investments, both medium-term and long-term investments, because you'll have different types of goals. So you'll have maybe a goal of getting a vehicle according to your age and so on, your goal of acquiring in your home, but then of course you might have children's education, which is a more long-term retirement. So you need different types of investments, guaranteed and equity investments as a balance to get you there, because if you have all of your investments in guarantees, it's going to take you a little too long. So you need some risk. And I always say that the biggest risk you can take is to not take one. You must take a little level of risk. And then I also advise clients as well on, well, if you want to create wealth, you cannot become wealthy being employed. So you have to take, look at certain businesses that you can do at the side, in your spare time. For example, teachers do extra lessons. Some of them open private schools, tuition, and so on. So there are things you can do with your time to achieve the level of security that you would want.
So sometimes you mention some of the side businesses or side hustles that people say, but people have problems budgeting too. I mean, you might be earning the money, but you're not budgeting properly. So how do you think teachers can manage effectively budgeting for their financial security?
Well, I think the first concept is that you have to save first. Most persons, what they do is they spend and then they save. You have to determine what you want to save first. Then once you understand that, The difference is what you live on. So if you're earning, let's say 12,000 per month, and you decide you want to save two, you have to save the two and then live on the difference. And make the adjustments and live on the difference. Because sometimes, especially in budgeting, when I sit down with a family sometimes, they have cable, they have direct TV, they have this. I said, listen, no, we have to lose some of these things because you all can't afford to enjoy all of these some of these things are luxuries. So you have to eliminate some, you have to give up some, right? In order for you to be able to achieve some of the things you want in the future. So the first thing you have to do is to decide what you want to save. And after that, then you live on the difference and you adjust your lifestyle to that difference.
So insurance, sometimes people have, I think, different reactions to it. If you're starting a job, you might not know anything about insurance, and you do it because everybody else is doing it.
Right.
So you just fall in with whoever persons. But what do you think are some common misconceptions people have about insurance or financial planning?
Well, we used to hear it quite often before it's a rip-off, and people have a tendency of lumping car insurance with life insurance, and it's two different areas. I mean, the conditions for a claim on a car insurance is much more intricate as with respect to a life policy, right? But that concept of, there are different types of plans. So, for example, if I run you through the range, the first type of insurance was term insurance. That's just pure coverage.
Okay.
And the concept is, if you start it, if you die, we pay. If you survive the period, that's it. So if you buy a term to 65 and you live to 65 and it ends, that's it. We don't have anything to give you. We say bye-bye and that's it.
Wow.
But if you had died, we pay. But the benefit of term is that the premiums are very low as compared to life insurance. Now, life insurance has cash values. So whilst you're paying, we take a percentage of your premium and we put it into the cash value, right? And that can come back to you as a retirement income, or you can use it for emergencies or opportunities and other needs, right? But again, with life insurance, the commitment has to be there for you to pay the premium. Because if you stop paying the premium without notifying the company, and some people experience this, we then start taking the premium out of the cash value. So your cash value starts going down. And then if nothing happens, if you don't contact us, and it runs out, the policy becomes null and void. And then the person will say, well, the company didn't inform them, they lose all my money. But that provision was really designed to protect the person, especially if something happens and they can't contact us, right? And next peeve people have to is service, right? The industry has a reputation of agents selling and not going back, right? But to me, they don't last long. The only way you can last long in this industry, like how I have lasted 32 years, you have to give good service because the word gets out there. And I have a philosophy. If you treat your clients like kings and queens, you're going to live like a king or a queen. Or if you help enough people to get what they want, you will get everything that you want. So service is key. If you see my training, I have a 10-step training system. And the last module is service. But I always write it very big because you could do all the other things good. You could find people you could approach, you could do a good presentation, the products. But if your service is rotten, it's going to show up because people will lapse your policy and so on. So service is the key. So with those notions there, once we get over those hurdles, everybody should be okay.
Okay. Let's talk about retirement planning. I think being a teacher in the staff room, there's always somebody retiring and they're talking about various things, and it seems to become a whole big exciting period in their lives. So what retirement planning advice would you give to teachers?
Well, it's a nice period to look forward to. My advice to teachers and anyone is the day you start planning for retirement the day you start working. Because some people wait until it's too late. We did a study some years ago and we looked at 100 persons beginning their careers. And this is what we found. 25% didn't make it to retirement, of course. Some people die. But the balance, 20% were living below the poverty level and 51% were just barely getting by. It's only about 4% who does really achieve financial security. And the ones who achieve it are the ones who would have planned, because most people don't really plan to fail, they fail to plan. So planning is very important. I also use a 4-step system with my clients. We advise you to set goals, then prioritize your goals, and then initiate a plan of action. Then the 4th step is the critical step, which is to review your plans on a regular basis. So sometimes people start plans, I've seen it. You start a pension plan for 200, you never review it. But what you should have been doing is reviewing and increasing as years go by. But 30 years pass, and when you get that money, you realize that it can't really do much because no adjustments were made to the plan for which you would have started before. So to me, the critical thing is to start early, allow interest, and of course your principal to help you along the way. But the reviewing part as well is also critical, because there are different products you can use, not just pension plans from insurance companies. I also must make a plug here as well for tax advantage saving plans, because you want to take advantage of the taxes you are paying. With registered pension plans, you can get back 25% of your contribution. That is something that you shouldn't waste. Take advantage of that, because it's basically the government saying, hey, we are willing to assist you to prepare for retirement, because the same figures I mentioned to you earlier, with the 71% of persons who fail, they also have that information. I mean, in our earlier discussion, I think you mentioned the retirement age moving from 60 to 65.
Yeah.
The reason for it is that they know that the resources, whether it be NIB or even government, pensions, are under strain, because the working population is shrinking. But those baby boomers who would have they born between 48 and 60 something going into retirement now, they're going to cause a strain on the economy, because it's a large amount of persons going in there. Most people don't like it. But if we don't take corrective measures by either asking people to save more or staggering or delaying retirement, it could cause a crash on retirement funds and so on.
Sure. Do you get people coming to you later on? I mean, some people may switch jobs or come to you later on in life and they're in debt. How do you treat with that?
Well, sometimes you need a whole remodeling of their finances. I had an experience recently with a teacher actually who came in, because when you have a good salary and you're in a stable career, the banks, and this is something I've found out, I've seen it so many times, the banks and the credit unions don't liaise with each other. And people will sometimes get a loan from a credit union, they'll go to the bank and get a loan, they go to the next credit union, and majority of this lady's money was going towards loans. And she took loans for purpose, like a friend come to and tell her, you want to start a business, you want to buy a tractor, so she got it. I said, listen to me, you need to just take a step back and start to consolidate, start to liquidate, and find ways to get rid of some of the loans. So I was able to show her where she could have extended some of the loans for a particular period. And I said, but you gotta stop borrowing money. Because if you continue this way, majority of your money will be going after interest. So yes, we have them. I mean, and it sometimes it comes from poor decision making as well, right? And a lack of planning. Because what some people try to do is they try to do everything at the same time. But what you're supposed to do is prioritize, work on one or two. When you're finished, you go on to something else. But you can't try to do everything at the same time. And because the banks, notice I think the banks, some of the credit unions, they take advantage of some of these people, right? And they sometimes jeopardize their financial planning, because sometimes they stop their insurance policies. In her case, I had to adjust the insurance from permanent insurance to term insurance, lowering the premium to make sure, because she has 3 children, still in a dependency period. So can you imagine something happening to her? Her creditors go with all of her money, and the children are left exposed.
So dealing in this type of business that you're dealing with, and you talked about other financial institutions like banks and credit unions and so forth, how do you think teachers can maximize the benefits offered by those other types of institutions?
Well, I think knowledge is important, right? I mentioned just now that you don't have the collaboration between the institutions,
Yeah.
right? But what I think could happen is a little more due diligence. I think what they should do, and these are the institutions, is to find out, get proper data in terms of what position the person is in. Because my philosophy, if we go back to the balanced financial plan concept, all of these institutions play a role in person's financial position. Because like with the credit union, it's easier to get a loan, but you also want to build a relationship. You need to build a relationship with all of these institutions so you can take advantage, because with everyone you will have what you will call pros and cons, right? At the credit union, you might get as much money as you can get from the bank, but you get it a little easier, right? With us, your cash values and even your dividends, you can get that within a few days, right? But sometimes you need money instantly, so you have your bank card, they can go to the machine. So you have to understand the products and determine which products could suit you best. But just be careful. I think the key is to what you're spending, because we also live in a world where consumerism, there's a lot of competition for your money.
Right.
Right? Because only this morning again I'm listening to a report coming out of Europe with these brands like Calvin Klein and all of them being sued by the Italian government for overpricing, right? Because the products are they would it will cost them about $50 to produce a product, but it's a little over 2,000.
Right.
What is causing the difference? The difference is marketing, right? Because of the brand, right? So people have to learn how to shop better. They are good products. I mean, shopping online, you have the pros and cons again, but it comes down to management and choices. And looking at the institutions, everyone plays a critical role. From the unit trust, I advise clients, listen, part of my strategy or service, when I go over your plans, I say, listen, you need to put about 300 in the credit union, and I will meet you by Eastern Credit Union on Frederick Street to make sure you do it, right? All that was part of the service. So unit trust, the credit union, the banks, and I network as well, because I have persons at Eastern, I have persons in unit trust, my sister-in-law that works there. So if they need to get something done, I can always send them. And of course, you have lawyers. We talk about wills. Most people don't have wills, right? And they need to understand that when you pass away, if you don't have a will, the state determines
What happens?
who gets what, right? And sometimes it's not in line with your wishes. So these are sometimes decisions you need to make up front. So planning, to me, is the real key.
So this will bring me to my next question. Do you or your organization offer financial literacy programs or resources to people?
Well, not as much as we should, right? And as I would have mentioned before we started this talk here, I have been planning to do one for quite some time. And know that I'm getting some experience with what you are doing here is going to give me a little idea in terms of how to do it. But I think it's needed. I used to do one by public, school by school, years ago, right? But since COVID, everything went online. But I need to bring it back. So as an organization, no. I mean, but I still think we do a good job in terms of our operations in the market, because as agents, we are not trained to sell policies. We sell needs, right? And we try to be a bit holistic. If I come to you as an advisor, and this is based on my education and training, I'm not just talking insurance, I'm talking savings, I'm talking protection dollars, I'm talking investment, stocks, bonds, unit trust, all of the products that can help you to get where you want to go, because insurance is not the only solution, right? There are some agents that come to you to tell you, they ask you, how much could you save? You say 2,000, and they take the 2,000 and put it in. That's not how it's supposed to be. The agent's supposed to say, well, okay, but you're going to take 400 and put it here because you don't have enough savings. You can take the next 400, put it in a pension plan, then some towards insurance. You understand?
Yeah.
And that's how the advice should be. So you have insurance agents, they just sell insurance. When you have a financial advisor, that person can advise you on multiple areas where you're financing. And I can even go further. sometimes we don't sell health products.
Mm-hmm.
But do you know how many health products I sold over the years through Tatil, through Millennium Insurance brokers?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you identify a person has a need for something and they don't have it, as a good financial advisor, you're going to tell them, but you can get it from here.
Okay.
Right? It's just like the family indemnity plan at the credit union.
Okay.
You meet someone and they can't afford any more coverage or they can't afford to buy insurance. I say to them, listen, at least do the family indemnity plan. Right? Want something I'm going to covering 6 persons. At least if somebody dies, you don't have to worry about financing. That's the kind of advice that you give people when you have the
Yeah, you're not gatekeeping the information.
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
Mhm.
But what age would you say you would accept a client? Because I'm thinking in my mind a lot. I had a guest on some weeks ago, a young person, and they were saying he wrote a book actually, finances on a page.
Right.
And I was saying I was there as an adult, way older than you, taking information from you. And part of what he said was that, as a young person, you need to have information and you don't know until you enter the workplace.
Right. Good.
And by then you're lost in all of these different competing companies. You've mentioned them, the bank, the insurance, credit union. They come to you and you think, well, I just want to save money. But the question is, what age would you recruit or seek out a client? What's your...
Well, we don't really have a minimum age because, well, we could sell insurance from 1 month up. But either the parent is buying it for a child, right?
Okay.
But for a young person, sometimes because insurance is not as simple as a bank saving, you tend to work with persons that have a certain level of either education or maturity. Because some people just don't understand, they don't get it.
Right.
You might talk to them now, and a year from now, they need money. They come and say, but I need some money. Well, no, the policy is never cash value until 3 years. But I pay an X amount per month. Where my money going?
Yeah.
You understand?
Yeah.
So we tend to be a bit careful, but if I come across an 18-year-old who I feel is knowledgeable enough and understands, and if I explain, I sometimes ask persons when I explain a plan to explain it back to me just to make sure that they understand, right? And then of course you get something in writing, you get your policy. So there's no minimum age because I mean sometimes we have applications coming in from 17-year-olds, sometimes parents as well, because they understand what insurance did for them. They will bring their young ones or send them. So listen, one check Mr. James and starting because you start to work 18, 19. So I will take them, right? But with caution.
Because I'm thinking back to when I was young, nobody's thinking about insurance.
Yeah.
I was not thinking about insurance. It would have been nice to have it from a young age.
The
To
younger the
see the
better.
maturity
Yeah, the
of
younger
it.
the
It's
better.
delayed gratification, and I think it's something. Just as young people, we don't all do that. We don't see the benefits of delayed gratification.
Some young people don't take it seriously enough until they have a need. So like I had a good friend. We were good. We grew up together, we lined together. And when I started in the industry, he never bought. And I talked to him about 3 times. And but from the time he got a child, he called me and said, Kenwyn, I'm ready to buy it because I really understand now the need for coverage. And that's the important thing, having a need for it. Because again, you're not supposed to just sell a policy for selling a policy sale. You have to make sure that the person has a need for it. And now with our new regulations where central bank is concerned, it's no longer what you'll call a code or an honor. It's part of the legislation, right? With the latest Insurance Act of 2021, we need to take information from persons. We need to have certain discussions before we make recommendation because there are now fines and jail time for giving people poor advice.
Wow.
Yeah, it's very, very serious.
So I'm sitting here. I think sometimes I can't even remember how the insurance agent find you. I think most people, they find an insurance because somebody says, go and get insurance. And it's a confusing thing because as you mentioned, there are so many types of insurance where people don't know what to get. If you're a novice and you're just coming in, what would you recommend they say to get started? Like, I don't have insurance and I don't know where to start. What would you say to them?
Well, again, it all depends on a person's position or need. Because you can meet a single person And let me just make the variations here. So earlier I mentioned term. So term is pure coverage. Then you have life, which gives you a balance between coverage and savings. Then you have endowments that more emphasize on savings. And then you have pensions, which is savings only. So it all depends on the person's position and where they are in life. Because you could have a young person, no needs, and they might more recommend an endowment plan to help them to save money because their goal might be to purchase a vehicle sometime down the road or to buy a home, as the case may be. But you might meet a person, same age, but their circumstances are different. They marry young, have 2 children. So they might more need protection. So when somebody comes to me, sometimes they come and the person says, well, the person who recommended says, well, go and do this. I say, yeah. I say, but let's make sure that's what you need to do, right? Because that person who sent you, their circumstances might be different to yours. They might have, like sometimes people say, well, why a 55-year-old, watch a young person and say, but will you buy life insurance or buy a pension plan? He has the luxury to say that because he is 55.
Yeah.
He lived.
Yeah.
But we're not sure the person at 25 is going to live.
Right.
You understand? So it all depends on your circumstance, your needs and your position. And based on that, we determine which one is best suitable for you at that particular point in time.
You said earlier, insurance, the earlier you start, the better, which I agree. When you're older, you see the benefits there,
Right.
But you're thinking, at least I'm thinking, I'm not in finance, but if I'd done this younger, I would have had so much more money now.
Right.
If I come in as a let's say, graduate university 21, and I told you I want a pension plan, would you offer me one?
Yeah, because remember, I said that you have to start planning for retirement the day you start working, right? NIS starts from the day you start working, right? And NIS is considered the foundation of financial planning. So yeah, your insurance, you buy insurance as early as possible for 2 reasons. One, the premium is low, but something that we miss. You buy insurance with your health. You pay for it with money. You don't get insurance because you have money. You have to be in good health because remember, the company has to take a risk on your health. If your health change, they pay. But we decline some people because you don't have good health.
Okay.
You could come with all the money, but if you're not in good health, we tell you, no, so we don't want your premium because you could pass away next week, right? So what you want to do is you buy it as early as possible so that you could protect your insurability. And that's why we sometimes sell term sometimes. A young person, let's say a person with a good future, you maybe went through medicine, you might become a doctor, and so on. I will recommend like $1 million term. You pay a very low amount, and you can always convert it to life. But when you're converting, you don't have to do a medical because you could wait. Good friend of mine, teacher, we used to Lyme as well back in the days. I talked to her about life insurance. She said she wasn't ready. She had a daughter at the time, but she said she wasn't ready. And when she qualified for a mortgage, the bank asked for insurance and she came. And she needed to do a medical because of the amount. When she did the medical, they found cancer. She couldn't get the insurance.
Wow.
And she still went. She survived the cancer. She still went into it because she couldn't qualify for insurance. Those are some of the dangers. Yeah. By waiting too long to get it. Can change.
So going back to teachers, and I know you mentioned several of them as clients. What do you think would be common financial obstacles teachers have when you come to them? What are the obstacles that we have financial setbacks?
The slow pace at which the income grows.
Oh my gosh. You're listening, right? Oh, listen to
It doesn't go
so
fast
fast
enough.
the answer as well. Just look at us pitifully.
So that's one instance.
Right.
But the other thing too is that the teachers are considered a secure, solid market. So yes, you would have several people putting pictures at you. You know, if you go into any sales environment, picture bottom dollar teachers are the top of the list for a group to target. Whether it's Rhino Marketing, whether it's the bank, whether it's the credit union. Yes, because it's stable, right? I don't think government are going to send teachers home. I don't think so.
You'll hear that. So the security.
Yeah, so there's security, but at the same time, I don't think you for the challenges, boy.
Yeah.
I don't think it's enough, especially in today's environment.
So let me go to the question, and the titular question here. What issues do you think teachers have? Teachers
Well,
face?
for me, it will be the behavior of these children today. I don't know how teachers deal with it. I used to do counseling. I used to go to, because again, coming through, I grew up behind the bridge. I grew up in an area with crime and drugs and everything. So I knew, right? You had to be strong to walk away from it.
Yeah.
Right? I had friends who ended up in jail, who died, etc. and so on. So my thing was to go to these schools and counsel and do,
Wow.
yes, do it.
Okay.
But after a period of time, I felt like I was a losing battle. Because sometimes the very sad children I'm going to talk to when I go back for another meeting, they're outside, they're cursing, sometimes even smoking. They're on the corridor with girls, they're cursing. I'm like, but I am not getting to these children. So here's what I did. I decided to go to the primary school now. I went down a little level lower into the primary schools. And I was shocked to realize that they started already seeing some of those behavioral patterns
in the primary school.
In the primary schools.
Yeah.
And I was like, but all these teachers make it out? So to me, and there's a level of risk because students now, as you were explaining to me before, some of them involved with gangs. They come into school with weapons, they're hitting teachers. I don't know how teachers deal with it. I don't know.
I mean, we're laughing here, but it's
No, it's a
serious.
serious thing,
Yes,
yeah,
I'm
it's a
looking at
serious
it as
thing.
somebody outside of it. Good.
So I no longer very rarely go to schools. Like, unfortunately, I wouldn't because it's like you just feel like you're going to a block when you walk in the environment. You feel like you're going to one of those blocks in St. Paul or Barrington, as it is. It's like a village in itself.
Yeah, you're the second guest to mention that area and that school. My guest last week was talking in terms of literacy, and that was one of the schools that she mentioned that they target in terms of underperforming in terms of literacy there. So it's a combination of factors that I think the children in the area and in the school are facing as well. So let's talk a little bit about you specifically. What do you think has been one of the most challenging aspects or roles for you in this business?
Well, that's a good question. You see, I wouldn't see it as challenging because, when you're in sales, if it's one thing you have to learn to deal with is rejection, right? But I would have studied my craft over the years. And, if I go back to when I first started, I knew no one, right? Because having come from a supermarket and a grocery, when we come into the industry, there's a project you have to do called the Project 100. You have to write down the names of 100 persons that you know. And majority of my persons was from the telephone directory because I didn't know much people, right? And I think my boss recognized that. Although I tried to fool him up because I tried to memorize some of the names I put down, but I think he recognized them. But he did talent. So I completed training, and there's this joke we used to have. When I finished training, my first day, I didn't know what to do. And our boss at the time used to say, if you have nothing to do, go downstairs. And up in front of the building. See that white building you see here to the pole? I don't know if you ever came there to me. Right? That's where I started. He said, go downstairs and stand up in the front of the door. Spit in your hand and when you open the hand, where the majority of spit go, that's the direction.
Oh my gosh.
That was his recommendation. It's a big joke. It just so happened that my first day when I came downstairs, thinking about where to go, Errol Thomas came out the door with me. He said, young man, where are you going? I said, no idea. He said, come and go with me. And he took me to Port Spain General Hospital. And I saw Errol talk to about 30-something persons in less than an hour. He was just talking to people and taking up. I was like, oh, okay. And my dad used to work St. Anne's Hospital. And I used to go up there for vacation. So I knew a few persons up there. So the next day, came out and jumped in a taxi and I'm going up St. Anne's. And I did the same thing he did.
Yeah.
Just talked a little bit. I talked to a lot of people. And they started to come. Now, if my boss said to me at the time, Kenwyn, see 10 people, I will see 50. Anything he said to do, I used to do. But I used to read a lot. So anything on insurance, I read. And then I started helping persons. I learned a concept, LAT, learn, apply, teach. Anything I learn, I apply it one time and I teach it. So I started training agents, new agents from early o'clock. So even before I came into management, I was training agents. I used to run training in the agency for even older agents. I started training from very early. So I, by training, I learned so much. So sometimes when I'm talking to the person, they say, well, you have an answer for everything. Right? So I know when you see it as a challenge per se, I see it as par for the course. You're into golf, some courses, what do you say, 80 something par. That is just, no is a part of it.
I say, but I don't know. But
Yeah.
I get the analogy.
Yeah. Rejection and no is the most toughest part of our business, and you overcome it with numbers. It's a numbers game, right? The law of averages. Brian Lara average was what, 50 something, because it meant that every time he goes to the wicket, he will score 50 something every inning. Sometimes he score 1 something, sometimes he score 10, he score 375. I know once I keep talking to people, people will buy. And here's what I know as well. If I do 10 interviews, 2 persons will buy now, 3 persons will buy soon. Once you keep in touch, 3 persons will buy sometime down the road, and 2 will never buy. Because they don't like Pan American Life, or they don't like insurance, or they don't like me.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We connect. But the other 8, once you keep in touch with them, at some point in time, they will come around. So there's always 8 potential sales in every 10 interviews. So once you like meeting people, and this is a plug for the career here, once you like meeting people, once you have a strong desire for success, once you're coachable and you're willing to put in the work, there are very, very little challenges.
Do you think that approach that Errol person you said would work now that you just go out and speak to people? It still works, yeah. with the change in times and population, you find?
Well, Trinidad as a population, I mean, yeah, what has changed a bit. Like, I'll give you a joke. Like, years ago, when I worked, I will go down to Salvatore building. I'm here to Miss Jenna Clark. I don't know Jenna Clark, right? And security said, Jenna Clark, I said, you're on the 4th floor. So I go up. And you go in the building. And if I get in Salvatore building 9 o'clock, I'm not coming out. Because I go in from office to office meeting people. Today, the security might be a bit more tight. Today, they would have fined Jenna Clark before they said, But you could still do it, right? With a little difference. Even secondary school, like long time, you will walk in a secondary school and go all over the school. Right. No, you have to go to the principal office first. They will send you there, and then she will say, all right, we'll come to Mokola. So it's a little different, but you can still find a way, because let's say if you at a particular school, I might decide, you know what, I'm going to make that school a nest. I'm going to go there every week. After a period of time, I become familiar. I go with the security. So I don't have to go through that, that type of restriction over a period of time. But I'll tell you the next thing now. It's no longer physical, it's online.
What do you mean?
You can meet people online.
How are you doing that?
Via Facebook or TikTok. You have a presence. Right. Like I have a presence. If you go on my Facebook page right now, you'll realize I have 6,000 people following me. Okay. Right? And I interact with them. So, like for recruiting, I would sometimes I do funny posts and people laughing and stuff. Right? But I just to engage. Right. Right? And you're sharing it, because that's my personality. Right. Right? And I will come to Messenger, start talking, hi, hello, realize you following me, what pique your interest. Okay. And then the question comes up, tell me something, do you keep your options open when it comes to ideas on, your career, considering a career change, and conversations start.
Okay.
And I can talk to 10, 15 people every day online because there are people online every single day. And listen, you get more information online on people than we. There has never been a better time for salespeople because everybody's online telling you what they do.
What they're doing.
Yeah.
So the social media really helps
Yeah.
to get the message out way
Yeah.
better than that.
And then we could broadcast. I could go live on Facebook this evening and start talking about and get people interested. And then follow up and get appointments. And so it just made a shift. The tool, or what you will call it, the environment just shifted from, and this happened since COVID as well too.
Yes.
Right? We have soft applications now.
Okay.
I can carry you through the whole process online without meeting you, only to deliver the policy. But I still like the face-to-face.
Human touch.
Yeah, the human touch, yeah. Yeah. We don't want AI to take over too quick.
I'm curious, what do you do when a client tells you, I already have insurance already? Is that part of where the rejection comes in that you say, or is there options you can offer them that's different from the...
Yeah, because that is considered to be an objection, right? But we are trained to overcome objections because not all objections are real or truthful.
Well, true. Yeah, they might say to dismiss you. Right?
It's like sentence, right? I hardly go sentence, but I am used as an objection in sentence. If you go up to
what area?
Hospital, right? If you go up there and talk to a nurse, especially in my heyday, they will tell you, I have insurance with Kenwyn.
Okay.
So an agent will go up there and say, I made so and so in sentence. I said, she had no insurance with me.
Okay.
But they will use my name to get rid of agents.
Oh. And you said in the beginning that was your stopping.
Yeah, that was one of my tests.
Some time ago.
Yeah.
Right.
But we have different strategies to get over it because here's what we know. We know that most of the times the first objection is not real. It's like if you go to a store, right? Looking for an item. If a person comes up to you and says, can I help you? What's your first response? Because you don't want to be. So we know people don't want to be bothered. So we have our ways of getting around it. It's techniques that you learn from selling, and some of them you learn them in the field, but there are books you can get. You know how to win friends and influence people. One of the best books I've ever read, and it's not just for selling, but it's about a way of life because it helps you to overcome challenges. Is Og Mandino's World's Greatest Salesman. That book has some principles in it. For less than $100, it's worth it.
The book recommendation, that we're getting.
World's Greatest Salesman, Og Mandino. Yes, it.
What would you say is a defining moment or achievement in your career? We're sitting here, and there are lots of accolades and trophies and plaques around. But what for you would be a defining moment in your career?
There are so many. Some still elude me. Right? Because I've done several conventions over the years. I've been Unit of the Year, I've been leading agency in production. What still eludes me, and I'm going after it still is Agency of the Year since I've been promoted.
Right.
So that is one that I have to get. But I've been agency of certain periods and conventions and so on. But if I have to give you a defining moment, boy, there are so many I can call on. But I will go to my first real triumph, which was my first convention that I qualified for in 2001. And the reason why I say it is that right before the convention, I had planned to leave the business. I actually went away on vacation, but I told them I was going on vacation, but I actually went away to stay.
You're thinking you're already sick.
Yeah. And my cousin, he actually called me today because he's in Trinidad. He cut a little end for me, and I was working in a deli, Lana. And whilst working in the deli, a client of mine walked in. I was shocked in Philadelphia. So I hid down behind a desk. And one of the employees came and he saw me down below the desk and he said, "But we're looking for something, looking for something." I know my clients will be looking because of my, I mean, what was, but I was frustrated at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, in some of those stores, you have like the mirrors where you can see and stuff.
Yes.
So I'm watching the feed. And when he left, I got up.
Mm-hmm.
And I just like, I said, "What you doing, boy?" And I came back home. So the time that I was scheduled to come back home, I came back home the Sunday. And the Monday morning, a young lady came and did a presentation on a particular product, our cancer care plan. And I saw it totally different. I never looked at it from that angle before. I didn't look at it from that angle before. That month, I went out and I sold 100 and something policies, 150 something policies. It's still a record in the company. And that helped me to qualify for my first convention. It was a convention to Spain, Barcelona, Spain. And I have a distinction in history. And that was my return because in school, whilst doing history, I always wanted to go to Spain, especially with the history on Christopher Columbus and his statue and that kind of stuff. And I said, looking at it, I literally got an opportunity to go to Barcelona, Spain, see, and that was a turnaround for me that never looked back after that. That's almost 23 years now. My career, I mean, I was there, getting awards and stuff, but after that, I just took off because people recognized what I had inside of me. And I'll give you a joke here. I had a tough manager. He always on me. Everything I do is never enough. So when the information came out that I did 150 something policies that month, I was in the office and I was by the podium. And he came in the office. We were standing up, waiting for him, waiting for him. He started asking people, "So what you did and what you did?" And he said, "Mr. Jim, what you did?" I said, "Mr. Paul, I did 57 policies." What? Yeah, boy, congratulations, man. I always knew you could have done it. But you know you could have done more. But you know, when I went home the evening and I wrote in the conversation back in my mind, I said, he was right because we had certain days when I wrote like 10 and stuff, I eased off. And I came out with the next. I could have done more. But that was the kind of driving force he was. I used to feel he didn't like me. But it was real love because he was tough on me. But it's the toughness that made me into the.
Some students feel that as well. That teachers pick on them, but it's what they see in you.
He was seeing what I wasn't seeing.
Yeah.
He was seeing that I could have been sitting down as an agency manager today because it's something I didn't used to see in his later on. He said, "You could be an agency manager." He used to tell me, "You could run this company based on the information." He said, "You could run this company. You could become a managing director." You know, and I started to think, I said, "But really, boy, because sometimes you don't see yourself."
Yeah.
And I'm very humble. No matter what I achieve, it doesn't go to my head. I might feel good for it, but after this figure, it's like no more. Right? You know, but he used to always say it, you know, and you know, yeah, it would have helped me, you know, as a young man coming through. And I know I see it. I see agents now who I feel have so much potential, but they don't see it over there. So it's like the shoe that's repeating itself.
Do you think, I probably should ask this in two ways, financial literacy is something that should be actively taught in the curriculum in school? How can we probably approach doing that? What might...
Well, I think the school program needs a whole overhauling. And I can tell it with my sons. I think they are bored stiff. Like, for example, if learning was on this, they will learn easy.
For device.
But they see them go back to that book, like punishment, right? So that's just one aspect of it. But with respect to literacy, yes, because persons will be better prepared to handle finances when they start working. Some people learn too late, some people never learn. Right? And I will go a step further. Not just, well, financial literacy should also include business. Because to me, the school system is still geared towards creating employees, not business people, right? And
well, they would tell you there's the entrepreneurship program now that they have at sixth form, but that's sixth form, that's when you're 16, 17, 18.
Well, I'm not certain. You see, because that's like we had principle of business, right? And
you're talking about creating sustainable business.
Because this is deep, this is deep, right? When you look at this, is from my standpoint. When I view like universities, businesses fund universities because they want to target these people when they come out to come and work for them, right? And because business has so much power with politics and so much stuff, so that's why I think it's not happening, right? Because that's how it is structured. It is structured for us to go to school. That concept of go to school, get a good education, get a job, still prevails today, right? So it is a combination of financial literacy and giving persons the option, because business is not for everybody at the same time. It's not for everybody. It requires a special kind of individual, but I think more should be done to get persons who have the eye or the temerity for business to get into business, because some of these students are lost in, especially like in today's world. Like, you have so many people making money off of YouTube, and Instagram,
TikTokers,
right?
influencers.
It's a skill. Some of them born with it, right? It just happened to fall into their lap. So I think the educational system is a bit behind, and that's why we're losing some of our students too, because we are unable to capture the attention, and capture the code. It's a different language. Sometimes my 7, well, come on, he's 9, he's talking. I was like, what's that? Because I don't know what he's talking about, right? But that's where they are, So, yeah, certainly.
Right.
Certainly.
Well, I want my listeners to know that you empower minds and you ignite curiosity. And we thank our guest today, Kenwyn James, for sitting with us. Thank you so much.
It was nice. A pleasure.